to true crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on, guys? I hope you had a good day. Welcome to another edition of We On That As News, ladies and gentlemen. We got a really interesting story for you guys. I am so tired. I got to just be honest with you. I'm super fatigued. Whirlwind day today. Well, every day is a whirlwind day in the land of strategic. I am tired, but I wanted to present these stories for you. So I got to tell you something. I kind of was a little bit confused with these stories because I first saw a story from Florida that said 40 PDs were arrested in a sting. And then I saw the 72 and I thought that they were the same place, but it's actually two different states. So ladies and gentlemen, the boys have been busy. Yeah. Yes, and when I'm talking about the boys, I'm talking about the boys in blue. They've been very busy doing a heck of a job taking these PDs off of the street. So now we have two different states, multiple men who should be ashamed of themselves, going after young people who are actually police officers posing as young people between the ages, I think they said anywhere from like 9 to 16 or something like that. I don't know, but we're going to get into this, guys. So we're going to start with Mississippi. And then we're going to go over to Florida where there's 40. So 72 in Mississippi and 40 in Florida. Let me get everything set up so you guys can definitely rock this out. First of all, I just jumped into this live because I'm tired. I was like, man, listen. I need to get with it. So we're going to change the background to that We On That As News background because this is a We On That As News session. Let me get a yay for that one. Oh, yeah. Okay. And then we're going to set you guys up and get you in on my screen. Let's do it. Let's bring us into this WLBT 3 News.
72 people arrested and 29 human trafficking victims recovered in a recent statewide operation. According to Attorney General Len Fitch, it was all part of a 2-week-long sex offender and human trafficking operation called Operation Guardian Force. The operation ran from July 14th until the 29th, working with around 400 federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies to handle warrants, arrests, and victim services.
That's all they gave us?
We lost them.
Oh my gosh, come on. You could do better than that, local news. This is the thing, right, guys? Like, these things are happening out there where law enforcement is going out there and getting these bad guys, and it's just not making the news. Like, the news just doesn't care. And I don't understand it. Can somebody, because listen, I got the smartest chat on YouTube. Very intelligent chat. Please explain to me, this dumb cop here, why we don't see the news cover these victories. We don't hear about these victories. This is why I'm covering this victory. Right now, we have 51 people in the chat. I could come and talk about cats and get more than 51 people. Why aren't people interested in these victories when we have proof and evidence that law enforcement is out there spending your tax dollars well and taking these PDs off of the street? The news is not covering it. People aren't interested in watching it. I don't understand what's happening with our society. Anyway, let's start reading. Jackson, Mississippi, a 2-week statewide ex-offender and human trafficking operation resulted in the arrest of 72 people and the recovery of 29 human trafficking victims. This is an enormous victory for justice, ladies and gentlemen. It was part of Operation Guardian Force, according to Attorney General Len Fitch. AG Fitch and the Trump administration are partners to support efforts to end human trafficking and deliver comprehensive victim services. A press release read, Operation Guardian Force ran from July 14th to July 29th and worked in partnership with 400 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers to effectively coordinate search warrants, arrests, and victim services. That's awesome. The operation also included an ex-offender compliance check to locate and identify ex-offenders, registry absconders, the Gulf Coast Center for Nonviolence, the Center for Violence Prevention, and the Transportation Garden provided services and treatment to victims who were recovered during this operation. Wow. We need to get a yay for that one. Excellent job. Excellent job. Collaboration with the different law enforcement entities down there, the fusion centers, etc., to work together to take these dangerous people off of our streets, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to another one. Let's see if we get a little bit more. This is 27 seconds. That's it. That's all we got. 27 7 seconds for the local news to educate us on the hard work that these law enforcement are doing out there protecting their citizens.
Attorney General Lynn Fitch announced that 72 arrests have been made in their efforts to crack down on human trafficking. Operation Guardian Force was a 2-week statewide law enforcement effort that also led to the recovery of 29 human trafficking victims. Fitch says the operation ran from July 14th to July 29th and worked in partnership with 400 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers.
All right. Let's see if we got another one. 39 seconds. This is all I could find on the internet, guys. We had a 15-second video, 27-second video. Now we got a 39-second video, guys. Let's see what they have to say.
Statewide human trafficking, fentanyl, and sex offender bust that includes South Mississippi. Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch says a 2-week operation called Guardian Force has resulted in 72 arrests and the rescue of 29 human trafficking victims. In all, 400 law enforcement officers participated in this operation, including the Biloxi and Bay St. Louis police departments, as well as the Harrison County Sheriff's Department and the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. WLOX News is working on getting a breakdown on just how many of those arrests and rescues were in our community. We'll bring you that information when we get it.
So it started out where I wanted to do this show to highlight the hard work of local law enforcement. It seems like the show is morphing to what's really happening is that for some strange reason, the news doesn't want to cover this stuff. We're witnessing before our very eyes that these victims don't matter. And then when they cover it, it sounded like an infomercial. It didn't sound like the victory that it was, that they were able to rescue 29 people. And most trafficking victims are young. 29 young people were rescued. 72 arrests were made. They found ex-offenders who had absconded from the program where law enforcement didn't even know where they were. That means that they could have been further victimizing people in the community, and law enforcement didn't know where they were, didn't know where to check. But yet they were able to recover some of those people during this operation, but we hear nothing about it. We get 27-second soundbite, 39-second soundbite. We're not getting the coverage that it deserves, and in them not covering this victory by law enforcement, they're ignoring the victims. They're not bringing awareness to the victims. They're marginalizing the fact that law enforcement was able to catch 72 people, which means that if there's 72 people that law enforcement was able to catch, you better multiply that by a factor of 50 to know what's still out there. There's no awareness on the fact that these streets are dangerous and it's littered with the worst type of people who may be your neighbors, may even be one of your family members who are victimizing people out there. And we need to put more awareness and more resources in protecting victims, aiding victims, and most importantly, getting these bad guys off the streets. So now let's segue over to Florida. Florida, we get a little bit longer. We get 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Let's see what they have to say about their momentous accomplishment in Florida, taking 40 bad guys off the street.
During a 6-day sting, deputies posed as children were contacted by these men who range in age from 18 to 64, according to deputies. Wow. Channel 9's J.J. Burton joins us live from outside the sheriff's office. J.J., the Marion County Sheriff had an important message for parents.
Yeah, Sheriff Billy Woods says that this is all very disturbing. He says, though, for parents, you should all be paying more attention to what your kids are doing on social media as well as on apps.
Down, get on the ground! Down! Get on the ground! Turn around! Turn around.
A video of just some of the 40 men arrested for allegedly trying to meet and have sex with 13 to 15-year-olds.
I want you to look at these guys. Look at every single one of these guys. What do they all have in common? I bet you none of you guys can peek into my brain and know what I'm thinking right now. I'll just tell you. They look like your neighbors, like your friends, like your family members. They look like the person next door, the average person. They look like the average person. We just saw Caucasian guy, black guy, Indian guy, Latino. In just that small little snippet, we saw every single race dominant race that is. Well, dominant is probably not the correct word to use when you're talking about races. Every single large population race category we just observed in less than 5 seconds of video footage. This is how prevalent this problem is. I tell you guys all the time, especially on a membership, please consider becoming a member, and especially on a Patreon. Become a Patreon member as well. I tell you guys all the time. Modern society has made people comfortable, most specifically women and children. Don't be comfortable. It is not safe for you out here. If you didn't know it before, know it now, and listen to the professional, the sex crimes investigation detective professional. I'm telling you from my words, from my lips, it is not safe for you out here. We, men, are dangerous. We, men, are dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep going. Look at these guys. Let's start it over again. Look at them.
Posed as children were contacted by these men who range in age from 18 to 64, according to deputies. Channel 9's J.J. Burton joins us live from outside the sheriff's office. J.J., the Marion County Sheriff had an important message for parents.
Yeah, Sheriff Billy Woods says this is all very disturbing. He says, though, for parents, you should all be paying more attention to what your kids are doing on social media as well as on apps.
Get on the ground! Down! Get on the ground! Turn around! Turn around.
A video of just some of the 40 men arrested for allegedly trying to meet and have sex with 13 to 15-year-olds. One tried to drive off and ended up in a retention pond. One crying right before being walked off in handcuffs. And Sheriff Billy Woods says all of these men use social media and apps like Snapchat to talk to and set up meetings with people they thought were teens.
To put it in perspective, these vile individuals right here, these vile individuals, they showed up with condoms, cocaine, alcohol, and many other drugs for a child.
This investigation lasted 6 days.
This operation is at the top of the ladder of the worst operations that you really do not like working.
Marion County ran this investigation with the help of several other agencies, including AG James Uthmeyer's office. He says more arrests like these are coming.
For every day I'm Attorney General, we're going to be working minute by minute to capture as many of these guys as possible.
So if anybody's interested in the type of work that I do, I posted something interesting on my Patreon. You can go check it out if you're interested.
And the sheriff, as well as the attorney general, say that Snapchat was the big app used, and he says they both said they're going to be going after Snapchat to try to make this harder for criminals to get in touch with kids and teens. Reporting live in Marion County, I'm J.J. Burton, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, big shout out to Ariel. She said that she sent a longer version. I'm not sure what she sent. We'll watch it. We got a little bit of time. We're not going to be here for a long time because I'm tired, but we got a little time. Let's see what you got, Ariel. All right. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to go ahead and bring this on over here. Okay. Let's do it.
Evening, and thank you guys so much for tuning in to Fox 10 News Gulf Stream. It is 8:15 right now, so we've got about 45 minutes until our 9 o'clock news, and I wanted to come on here real quick and talk to you guys about what is going on. Of course, this is happening in Mississippi, just about 45 minutes away from Mobile, actually.
Stopping it for 1 second, just give a big shout out to Sale Hounds with a $5 super chat. So Strategic, thank you for bringing attention to this big bus. PETTYFiles only get away with this as long as people look the other way. No truer words have ever been spoken. That is exactly what they want. They want us to have the wool over our eyes, ladies and gentlemen, and not see them for who they really are. but we are going to expose them one PT at a time on this great channel. Let's keep going.
Statewide, so a massive statewide human trafficking and sex offender bust again in Mississippi has led to 72 people being arrested. Now, according to the Mississippi State Attorney General, 29 human trafficking victims were rescued during Operation Guardian Force. Now, the state attorney also says 400 law enforcement officers took part in this 2-week mission. Now, this did happen from July 14th through July 29th, so it just ended really just a few days ago. And again, this has been going on for quite some time. A lot of people taking part in this. Again, I'm going to go ahead and read you guys some names of those people that were a part of this operation. So we have many agencies, including sheriff's offices from Jackson County, Mississippi, Harrison and Stone counties, as well as police in Bay St. Louis and Biloxi. So Biloxi, we're in Mobile, we're honestly about 50 minutes away from there. So our photographer Hayden and I actually went over to Biloxi and we were able to sit down with Catherine Bizu. She's human trafficking advocate with the Gulf Coast Center for Nonviolence. So in just a few minutes, I'm going to play that full extended interview with her so you can just really sit down with us and hear what all she had to say, because of course with broadcasts we have to shorten it up just a little bit. So we want to bring you guys the full uncut extended version of that interview. But before we get into that, let's talk about some of the things. I just told you what we do know. What do we not know? Well, right now we don't know the identities of those 72 people that were arrested. We're trying to get that information. We've reached out to the Mississippi Attorney General's office and we are waiting to hear back from them. What we do know, however, again, 29 victims were rescued, and according to Catherine Bizu, she says that the age is varied in these victims. So it was, you know, a wide variety. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to hear from Catherine Bizu. Again, she is the human trafficking advocate for the Gulf Coast Center for Nonviolence.
All right, before she jumps in there, big shout out to everybody who's watching me on this unpopular topic, but it needs to be talked about and we need to bring awareness to these things. So we have almost 140 people watching this live right now. We really would appreciate it if you hit that like button so we can get into the algorithm. Once again, we don't ask for likes for our ego. We only ask because it's the only way to get into that algorithm. YouTube even gives training videos in the YouTube Creator Studio. They give training videos to creators like myself where they tell you how to increase engagement and how to have your channel picked up by the algorithm. And one of the things they say is that you should ask your audience every now and then throughout your video, just like I do, to hit the like button and to engage in the comment section. So if you have creators who don't ask for likes or they make fun of other creators that ask for likes, they're actually not being smart creators, because that is what YouTube tells us to do in order to increase the growth of our channel. So we're asking for you to do that and we appreciate it. And when some of you guys, for some strange reason, get annoyed with that, that's weird, but we're only asking you because YouTube is telling us to ask you. All right, so let's keep going. Let's listen to what this advocate has to say.
Here's what she had to say. But just kind of talk to me about this operation. That was a 2-week operation. Walk me through
What's up with the sound?
how y'all got involved.
So the operation had many folds to it. There was a drug sting and there was a human trafficking sting, which we were a part of. We were invited by the Attorney General to participate, and that was the center's second time participating in the sting. We did 2 days with the law enforcement. And when they brought in victims, we were there to be able to give them resources. They were able to seek medical attention if they wanted it. They were offered shelter if they wanted it. But ultimately, we just wanted them to know that there was a place there for them for when they were ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you said you've been working in this, you're an advocate for human trafficking. Yes. It happens almost every day. We see the stats and stuff. So talk to me about what it's like to see victims of this to be rescued.
Yeah. So.
All right. So before she answers that question, it's a good question. I just want to say, because somebody made a really good point in the chat, and I hate to just go back on this. I apologize, because we're watching something very important, and we're talking about something important. But Rachel M. said, I would never get annoyed just because you ask for likes. Some people be begging for that money. And just remember that. On True Crime with Strategic, we never, ever, ever, ever beg you for your coin. All we ask is for likes, subscribes, and comments. Let's keep going.
Well, I like to say that it can happen to anyone, honestly, and not a lot of people understand what human trafficking is, or they may not realize that they have been human trafficked. So it takes a little bit of kindness and patience when you're dealing with victims, because sometimes they may not be ready to accept their situation, or they might be scared because, you know, abusers have control over them. So I did work in the shelter previously to becoming an advocate. So I've seen it from both sides. I've seen plenty of people come in at their lowest, and I've seen them leave at their highest. So this is it, participating in that sting. It was very interesting because I got to see outside of the center's perspective on trafficking and basically, you know, who trafficking harms, honestly.
Yeah.
See, these type of organizations where we need to put our money, but yet we put our money in these, you know, large organizations that have PR firms and all that stuff, and they steal your money and they buy houses with your money, and, you know, they enrich themselves and all that good stuff. Where you have organizations like this that really would take $1 million or $10 million and use it to actually save lives, not just spew political slogans and ideologies. If I had $1 billion, you better believe I'd be donating to organizations like this who help trafficking victims. This is what we need to invest in. Big shout out to Donna Aldridge with a $5 super stick. Appreciate you. Let's keep going.
And when it comes to, I don't know if you have just kind of a general idea of this, but with the victims, do you know like the age range of the victims? Okay,
no.
Gotcha.
In all honesty, it could happen to any age group. But as for the victims that we served at that particular time, it was a wide range. So,
okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. And I'm going to pull up my phone real quick. I had some other questions that I wanted to ask. So, I know you mentioned that you offered them medical assistance if they needed it, a shelter. Walk me through the process of just talking to them. How do you guys approach them?
Yeah, so it takes time because you want someone to trust you before they tell you their life story and their trauma. So we offer them comforting items such as blankets, we had chapstick, we had tissues for them because it's scary to think you're going to do one thing and then, police show up and here you are, you're being brought to us. So it just takes time to gain a person's trust in that moment. And then we also don't want to shove their victimization in their face, because that can be very triggering. So we allow people to speak to us, tell us a little bit about their situation if they want to, and then we just offer the resources that the center provides for them, and they can take it or leave it because we're very much about self-determination and autonomy. So whether or not they are receiving of our information, at least they have it and at least they know there is somewhere they can go.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned some people might not even know that they have been trafficked. What are some signs that people can look out for in case?
All right, before she answers that question, which is also a very important question, what are the signs that people could look out for to know that they've been trafficked? Because some people don't know that they've been trafficked, and that's very true. I got to give a big shout out to Don H., who gave me a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Don H., for supporting the channel and donating $20 to us. All right, let's keep going. I definitely want to hear the answers she gives. And I also put a poll inside of the chat as to what do you guys think are the more likely ways that somebody can be trafficked or is susceptible or open to being subjected to trafficking. Just a few things that popped off the top of my head. That's of course not a fully exhausted list. There are other reasons why somebody could be trafficked, but I'd like to get your ideas on some of the things that I put up in that poll. So now let's listen to her answer, because she really is the expert in this type of crime. I want to hear what she has to say.
They might not realize that they are a victim of this.
Yeah, honestly, it comes down to three things: force, fraud, and coercion. You know, if someone is being physically forced to participate in acts that they don't want to, that's human trafficking. If they are offered a job and then when it comes to doing that job, it doesn't exist, and they're told, you know, you have to do this instead, that's human trafficking. So a lot of it is basically recognizing whether or not there is an abuser, and then just watching out for the signs from the victims, actually listening to them when they speak, and you can kind of tell, you know, from there if they are a victim of human trafficking.
Yeah, and I know back to the operation that happened this month, it was a 2-week span, and 72 people were arrested. I mean, I personally have never seen that amount of arrests in an operation. Talk to me about what it was like to know that so many people are...
You know, what we are seeing a lot when we encounter these trafficking victims, especially the teens, is a lot of times, like they said in this interview, they don't know that they're being trafficked. So what these criminals will do, because they're so much more sophisticated, like in the old days, you know, with the pimps up and the hose down kind of stuff, they would just take all the money from the victim. It's not what they do anymore. A lot of times, the victim, especially the younger ones, will not know what they're being sold for. So they'll be sold for $1,200, right? And the trafficker will give them $200 and keep $1,000. Give them $300 and keep $1,000. So now they're turning these tricks. And so the amount of money that they're able to keep in their pocket without being touched at all is accumulating. Now, first of all, they got $200. They're like, wow, this is a lot of money. That's just for the first one. Now, after the 10th, the 20th, the 30th trick, they're looking at thousands of dollars in their pocket that nobody's going to touch. Nobody's taking that money from them. They could do whatever they want with that. They're buying nice clothes. They're buying technology. They got the iPhones. They got the tablets. They got the Gucci belt, the Gucci bag. They think they live in a life. They don't even know that they're being abused. They're being used up. And in the meantime, the trafficker is getting $1,000 for every 200 that they get. So whereas they're getting a couple thousand, this trafficker is getting tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands off this one person. Now multiply that by 5, 6, 7, 10 girls. Most often, runaways who are exposed to the streets, as I said in the poll, and the amount of money that these folks can make is infinite, unlimited. And that's what we're seeing. So now when we find them, when something goes wrong, or believe it or not, you get a John with a conscience. Because sometimes that's how we discover these victims. A John with a conscience. Meaning the John sees the pictures on the internet. She looks young, but most of the time you can't advertise the age. So there's a fake age there, 18, 19, 20. Then when they get there, they're like, oh no, this is a young one. So instead of engaging in the illegal, illicit activity, they're like, nah, I didn't sign up for this. And they make an anonymous call or whatever, and they say, yo, listen, I just came from seeing you could do whatever you want with me. Of course, we're not going to do nothing with you if you didn't do anything and you're reporting it, but you do whatever you want with me. But I just went to this place at this time thinking I was going to meet X, Y, and Z, but instead I met Q. And I'm not interested in Q, and I want to help Q, so I'm reporting Q to you. So then we move in and we get Q, and it's like, I'm not a victim. I'm not telling you nothing. They don't even know that they're being trafficked. They have no clue, because what they think they're getting exactly what they want out of the transaction. But they're not. They're being used. They're being abused. And it takes a lot of effort and collaboration with organizations such as the organizations that this woman represents. But every state has their own version of these type of organizations where they can now break down those barriers and start deprogramming that person and make them realize, hey, what you were doing is not right. And regardless of how you may feel about your trafficker or your abuser, they are just that. They're abusers, and they're not your friend, and they don't love you, and they don't care about you. It takes a long time. It's a long road for the victims. Let's keep going.
Held accountable for this.
I mean, it's a great feeling. It's honestly, how would I put it? It almost brings a feeling of hopefulness, you know, because I, like so many other people, may not have started out in this position knowing what human trafficking was. Or if someone did, maybe they felt like they didn't care, you know, or others in authority didn't care. So it actually brings a sense of hopefulness to have like the Attorney General say, hey, human trafficking is a huge problem, and we want to combat that. And to see that law enforcement agencies have their own human trafficking team to conduct these things and like reach out to organizations such as ours so that victims can be helped. It's actually it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to just more operations, I know we just talked about a lot of people were arrested. Do you hope to see more people be held accountable, especially
Absolutely.
in the state and the nation?
Absolutely, I do. Because I want to see people change for the good, you know? I want this to be an example for abusers, that they can't just get away with harming others, you know? And I also want this to be an example for victims that, you know, there is a light at the end of that tunnel, you know? There is help when they are ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, is there anything else that you want to add just on the operation as a whole?
All right, hold on here. Let me just jump in right here. Just answer some questions, guys. She's answering questions. I'm answering questions too. We're both adding our expertise to increase your knowledge base on the topic. So Jay McWilliams says, I don't understand where these people are being trafficked to. For X, you guys know I have to censor myself a little bit. People buy them, ? This is one sketchy industry. All right, so they're being trafficked to your local budget motel. So wherever you live, Jay McWilliams, if you find your Super 8, your Mobile 6, is that what they call that? Mobile 6? I don't know. I don't know. I don't stay in those places. Motel 6, hotel, I don't know. Your what is it? Howard Johnson. And even mid-tier business hotels like Holiday Inn and Hilton Garden Suites and stuff like that, that's where you're going to find these folks. That's where you're going to find them. That's where they're being trafficked to. All right. The next question, are they purchasing them for X? Yes. They're being trafficked. They're being brought to these places, and then ads are being put up for them on illicit websites that are readily available to the population. People who are looking for those things will go on those websites. When you're in that world, there's certain things that are said in the bio section of those ads that will cue you into the fact that this person might be younger. And what's the last question for Jay McWilliams? Do people buy them? Yes, obviously they do. And is it one sketchy? Yeah, it's not just sketchy. It's completely and wholly and totally immoral and illegal. So once again, no shade on Jay. I'm literally answering their question. I'm not trying to sound sarcastic or anything like that. Those are good questions. Not everybody understands this world. Okay, I'm getting paid to understand this world. This is my job. This is what I do for a living, okay? And this woman, this is her passion, and she gets paid to do it too because she works for a not-for-profit, but it is her passion as well. So not everybody understands this, and that's why we bring awareness. That's why we're covering this, even though mainstream media is not covering it. We're covering it so that we can make sure that people like Jay McWilliams can understand what's happening right underneath their noses in their community, so that while they're out there in the real world, if they see something, they're going to have and be empowered to say something, because they'll get the information they need from places like here on True Crime with Strategic on another edition of We On That As News. Anyway, let's keep going.
Yeah, I would just like to thank the Attorney General and the law enforcement team that allowed us to participate and who were very kind and generous. And they were honestly a very trauma-informed group. And I think that helps with our job, but it also helps make victims more comfortable to approach, law enforcement for help.
All right, we got Matt Step in the building. What's happening, Matt Step? Haven't seen you in a long time. Thanks for coming through and showing some love.
Was writing my script for this story, which is what we have to do when we're editing our video and getting our story together. I was doing some research on human trafficking in America, and according to the U.S. Department of State, there are approximately 14,500 to 17,500 domestic victims trafficked every day. So that is a lot of people going
Bring it back. Bring it back.
17 for this story, which is what we have to do when we're editing our video and getting our story together. I was doing some research on human trafficking in America, and according to the U.S. Department of State, there are approximately 14,500 to 17,500 domestic victims trafficked every day. So that is a lot.
Now you look at the population of the United States of America, 300 million people. You might say, some people, she says there's a lot. Some people might look at it and say, oh, that's a tiny amount of people. We live in a Western culture, Western society. This is not supposed to happen here. We also live in the richest country in the world. You have this stuff happening in third world countries because people are hungry and they're willing to do anything just to eat, which is a travesty in itself. But we live in America. This is not supposed to happen here. And yet 14 to 17,000 people are trafficked daily. Now, what I want to know, and maybe she might answer this question as she speaks more, are these new occurrences of trafficking, or are these continuing instances of trafficking, meaning that it's one victim that they're counting every single day, that they're still stuck within this trafficking travesty network? I don't know. I'd like to know that. But if it's 17 new cases of trafficking every single day, this is an epidemic, because we're talking about millions at the end of the year. But let's see what she has to say.
A lot of people going through this on a daily basis in the United States. So seeing this happen in Mississippi, again, as you heard from Bizu, she's very thankful for law enforcement who is putting themselves out there and going out and holding people accountable for doing these things. Now, on this topic, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pull up our website. And I'm going to go over here and on.
Now, there's another good comment here. Somebody said, well, if the traffickers know there is no real punishment for this, they never stop. But there is real punishment. You actually go to jail for a very long time if you're convicted of trafficking. The thing is that this is one of those kind of crimes like dealing or drug dealing, where the financial incentive is so great that people are going to take that gamble, even though there's a lot of punitive time that they face if they get caught. So this is one instance where we really can't say the legislators didn't do their thing and they're soft on crime. Most of the time when you traffic, you're doing interstate, the federal punishments for trafficking is out of this world. Like most of the time, it's like life in prison. And in most states, they're going to give you decades in prison if you're convicted of trafficking. The problem is it doesn't stop, because once again, as I gave you the example I gave you, they're making thousands and thousands of dollars, sometimes a day, in their trafficking networks. So they're making so much money that the incentive is, if I could get away with it, in just a short period of time, I can make enough money that I may not need to even do this anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they find a victim that meets the criteria where they can make a lot of money with that victim, most often it's age, they can just use and abuse that victim, make hundreds of thousands of dollars, then kick that victim to the curb, and they don't even need to traffic again. That's how much money they can make. So the incentive is there for them to keep doing this because they make so much money. It's not even the fact that there isn't a harsh punishment, because there really is.
This topic of human trafficking, our Ashlyn Mitchell actually covered this last year. It's Darkness to Light. She has 2 parts to these. So if you go on our website and you guys want to watch this, again, Ashlyn Mitchell covered this last year, and she talked to actually a domestic violence victim. And we were able to hear her side of the story, kind of what was going on there. But you guys can, again, go to our Fox 10 website and look this up. It's called Darkness to Light. There are, again, 2 parts to this. So if you guys want to hear firsthand what it's like to go through something like human trafficking, Ashlyn Mitchell spoke to a victim of this. So again, as you heard from somebody with Catherine Bizu. She was one who was working technically on the front lines, seeing what these victims were going through, seeing their reaction to being rescued by law enforcement to get out of that situation. And now we're, again, with this story, you can.
So big shout out to Mooning Werewolves. She shared with us, and we always appreciate when a victim, survivor, and warrior, we don't know where you are on that spectrum, just to define it again, because we haven't talked about it in a little while, but on here on True Crime with Strategic, a victim is somebody who's been a victim of a crime, all right, and you're dealing with your trauma. A survivor is somebody who has put in the work and has conquered, or at least learned how to manage that trauma through therapy and hard work and counseling. And a warrior is somebody who's taken those skills that they've learned as a survivor, and they're now using that to empower themselves to fight for other people who may be at risk or who may have been victimized in a similar way. I don't know where you are in that spectrum, Mooning Werewolves, and there's no shame to be on any of those different titles that I just made up off the top of my head a couple years ago. But we thank you for sharing with us, and we appreciate you. And she says, I'm a victim. All my abusers, save a family member and one person, were all connected to the religion I was raised in. We're sorry that happened to you, and you'll find a safe place here where you can express yourself if you choose to stay. But my question for you, if it's not too personal, is, did that religion start with an M? I'm just curious. I'm not putting shade on any religion, but I'm just curious if that religion started with an M. And you don't have to answer that question. You can remain silent if you like, and it's perfectly fine. All right, let's keep going.
See firsthand from someone who has been through that. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw your attention to a story that I did last night. And this one was a very strange one. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this one. So I'm gonna go to this story. I typically do it this way. And we're gonna scroll right here. So this is the one I'm talking about. This is the story that I covered yesterday. An Alabama inmate claims a local doctor cut off too many of his toes. Now, we are not naming the doctor because we are unsure right now if the doctor is even aware of this complaint.
All right, I don't think she's still talking about the, like, what is she talking about now?
For medical malpractice.
She's talking about some
Ashlyn
toes.
Mitchell spoke to.
So what we're gonna do is Darkness to Light, Part 1: The Horrors of Human Trafficking. We're gonna listen to this a little bit, and then we'll call it a day, because it looked like this reporter has moved on from that particular topic that we were covering. Let me go ahead. I want to definitely hear what a survivor has to say. I think that's interesting. All right, so I gotta figure out Darkness to Light. Okay. I think I have to search for this on the Google. Fox. What was it? Fox 10? Fox 10. I'm working on it, people. Here we go. Let's do it. All right. we got to pause that because they be copywriting people with music and stuff like that. All right, now.
Southern Alabama. Known as Camille Place, it houses girls and young women who are survivors of exploitation.
Our Ashlyn Mitchell sat down with a survivor of human trafficking. She told Ashlyn she wishes there was something like Camille Place when she needed help.
And here's part 1 of Darkness to Light.
For security reasons, the survivor of human trafficking is choosing to remain anonymous. But what you're about to hear is a story she's never told before. She says she hopes her narrative will shed light on the real dangers of human trafficking and new programs in place to help survivors.
I was coerced, I was deceived. It's a whole mind game.
Every day, millions of people are sold to the monster of human trafficking. 20 years ago, one woman found herself in its powerful grip. For the very first time, she's sitting down with me, ready to share her story.
If I can get this out there, then maybe somebody can hear it and not go through the same thing that I went through.
She says her story begins when she was introduced to drugs and moved to New York City.
I was 20 years old at the time. I was staying in a homeless shelter. I ended up going out one night for some reason and I got lost. It started getting dark.
That night, she says a man overheard her asking a street vendor for directions.
It offered to give me a ride to go back to the shelter, and I agreed. That would be great. Very naive, very naive. And then so he offered me a job opportunity because I didn't have any money.
But there was no job.
There was this other guy who kind of stepped in and it was like, do you want to go with me? I was like, well, I don't want to get killed by this guy because he was a pimp. I ended up staying there for 4 months. I tried multiple times to get home.
After months of abuse and torture, she met a man who helped her escape back to Mobile. Although physically free, she says emotionally she was trapped.
Once I got out, I did not get help. That's the key. I did not get help. I was in shame. I didn't even really understand what really just happened to me. It just happened so fast.
After tumultuous years of victories and relapses, she finally found peace.
Trauma lives in our body, and so because I didn't deal with it, the cycle, it just goes, there's a whole cycle.
Now she's using her story to counsel others who are facing similar trauma.
I'm working on my social work degree so I can get my master's and do trauma therapy. My higher power, who I choose to call Jesus, my Lord and Savior, he's really just been there with me the whole time.
As she continues to heal, she says her biggest regret is not getting help.
Let me ask you guys a question. And I don't want to offend anybody at all. But I really, this is something I've been thinking about because, of course, in the world that I'm in, I encounter a lot of therapists, a lot of people, but I find that a lot of survivors and warriors will go into counseling and therapy, especially professional therapy. Like they become therapists and psychologists. And I wonder, how does that affect them as survivors when they put themselves in a profession and sometimes a specialty within that profession where all they're doing is dealing with people who have experienced these very traumatizing events that are sometimes quite similar to the traumatizing events that they've experienced? That seems kind of like, it's almost like torture. I don't know. I'm not that person, so I'm pretty sure somebody who has experienced that would be able to answer that question a little bit better than me. But yeah, I noticed that people who have experienced these traumatizing situations will gravitate towards professions that, if I could use those words cautiously, one would imagine would naturally re-traumatize them just based off of the subject matter. But you guys tell me what you think about that. Let's go.
Sooner.
If I knew the resources was there, I would have been able to take care of it back then and not have to go through the whole re-victimization.
One local woman is doing what she can to help stop the re-victimization. She's opened a home for girls and young women who've been trafficked and exploited. Chris Zebach is the founder of Camille Place.
She says survivors are usually taken to detention centers or placed in foster care, places not equipped to handle the trauma they've endured.
They've been sold to various people, even through the night. They are tired, they are hungry, scared to eat.
So in 2020, with an army of donors and volunteers, the 16-bedroom home, Camille Place, was born.
Nice.
In the past year, 12 young girls have found refuge at Camille Place, the youngest just 11 years old. Zebok says a majority of the girls have been trafficked by the ones closest to them.
The familial trafficking is at an all-time high. Majority of the children that we have served have been because of the families being involved in the trafficking.
Early on, she says many of them sleep with blankets over their heads.
You walk in the room in the morning and you see them laying on their back with their head exposed. And you realize then that she's now found peace.
It's a chance to start over.
Last year at Christmas, all of them wanted, including the 19-year-old, a baby doll. They have been robbed of their childhood. They've been robbed of their innocence.
The home offers holistic healing through nutrition, therapeutic activities like gardening and painting, and even accredited education.
And some have not even known how to spell their name.
Just wanted to stop it here, not stop it here, but just pause real quick. Just say I got some really good answers, really heartfelt, good answers in the chat for my musings, my reflections, my question. Really, this is a question. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for everybody who answered me. Yeah, it makes sense what you guys are saying. Everybody had pretty much a different type of answer, but really was kind of coalescing around the same kind of thought process that even though it's tough and it can be re-traumatizing for those survivors / warriors, it's almost like a greater good. That's what I'm getting from these answers. Like, yes, it could re-traumatize them, and maybe in some instances it may not even be healthy for them, but they got help that brought them over the threshold and allowed them to, get some normalcy in their life. And it's worth it to give back and try and be there for somebody who was in their shoes and let them know that they're not alone. And I totally understand that, and I respect it. Let's keep going.
And we get them on an individualized program based on where they are. So they may be 16 and on a 3rd grade level.
Just this year, 2 girls even graduated high school.
That's great.
Currently, 20 staff members serve at Camille Place, providing around-the-clock care.
We have a residential coordinator, we have a program director, we have the house moms, cook staff, therapists come in.
The survivor we spoke to couldn't hide her smile when she learned about Camille Place.
I saw your eyes light up when I was talking about Camille Place earlier and how girls have that step 1 process right after they've been trafficked. They have that source of hope.
Yeah.
Do you wish that you would have had something like Camille Place in your situation?
Absolutely, absolutely. I wish that I would have had Camille Place whenever I got out of that. I wish I would have had a crisis center whenever I went through my psychosis.
And she says women aren't the only ones affected.
Right. It's just as bad for the men as it is for the girls.
Chris Zebok is bridging the gap that exists in survivor resources, and she's opening the nation's first safe home for boys under 16 rescued from human trafficking.
So often young men are forgotten in these things. So often we pretend like young men don't get abused and boys don't get abused. Yeah, it happens. It does happen.
I'll take you there tomorrow in part 2 of Darkness to Light.
Right. So guys, this is really good. We're going to stop this here. I do have to get to bed. I haven't even taken a shower yet. So I got to take a shower, get to bed. My daughter just texted me. She's like, when you're done taking a shower, can you come help me with something? I'm thinking it's like something crazy. I said, what is it? She said, I want to set up my Sims 4 game. So I got to go help her set up her game. It's summertime, so the kids aren't sleeping early. They sleep whenever they want, the big girls at least. So yeah, we had a really good time today bringing awareness to something that mainstream media does not care. But that's why you have Strategic Eyes' We On That As News, so we can cover the news that the mainstream media won't cover because it's not salacious enough. Because hearing about what the traffickers are doing to the victims is more important to the local news than hearing about when the cops are actually catching them. The news wants to talk about the evilness that's done because that's more salacious. that sells clicks and views. They don't want to talk about, hey, we're not here to tell you all the nitty gritty, dirty parts of what happened. We're just here to tell you we took those bad guys off the streets. Oh, nobody cares about that. But we care about that here. We're going to talk about the nitty gritty sometimes because that's what needs to be discussed. But we're also not going to overlook our victories, because at the end of the day, we're here to give a voice to the voiceless. We're here to put a spotlight on this darkness. You know what? I just thought about that, but maybe this title was into my subconscious, Darkness to Light. Screw it. It doesn't matter. We're going to bring light to that darkness. One PETTYFile at a time. Guys, consider becoming members of True Crime Strategic. Before I go, I got to definitely shout out some of these new members that decided to join the show. We appreciate you. And what do we got going on here? We've got Natalie Brown, who's now a recruit member. Welcome to the channel, Natalie Brown. Welcome to the family. We appreciate you. Chemical W6 is now a patrol level member. Thank you for becoming a patrol member on True Crime Strategic. You are appreciated. Sailhounds with a $5 super chat says, it's a dirty secret that is sadly swept under the rug. I'm proud of Oakland and County, Missouri, Leo, staying on that as making internet and local bus. I'm proud of them too. I'm 100% proud of every law enforcement agency, which is all of them really, that are out here fighting a good fight and doing their best to bring light to this darkness, to these dark corners of our society and our culture. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, consider becoming members of our show and consider becoming a member of our Patreon. We try and get real personal on Patreon. We drop videos as much as we can, and it ebbs and flows. Sometimes you get a ton of videos, sometimes you get just a few, but it all is dictated by my schedule. Never forget that this is just for fun, that at the end of the day, I got to do this stuff in the real world, and so I don't always have time, but I always will make time, even though I always don't have time. Now I'm talking in circles because I need to get into bed. I'll see you guys on the next one. Strategic is out of here. Peace.
Welcome to True Crime with Strategic.